So, guess what? It's time again for the May Wyld West Show, the podcast where we tell the hedonistic adventures of myself, my husband, Mr. West, and my friends in the modern American Wild West. Yeah, the Rocky Mountain region, where it's usually so damn cold that we've got nothing better to do than fuck from October till March. This is the show where we tell the stories of our sometimes reckless, usually sexy, probably awkward, and always thrilling lives. My name is, of course, May Wyld West, and I'm a trophy wife, embarrassing mom, the loudest person pretty much anywhere, and a member of a super secret squirrel shit naughty club. Don't tell, but my husband and I swing. Sometimes Hotwife, but mostly just enjoy spending time with our friends and having kinky sex. My entire life, I've had a tendency to get myself into some amazing adventures and sticky situations. Partially because my curiosity gets me into trouble, and partially because my motto is, I'll try anything for science. Once, probably twice, but if you're going to follow the scientific method, at least 3 times. The stories we share will be sexy, spicy, and completely inappropriate for kids. Think sex, drugs, rock and roll, and a load of laundry. As always, this podcast is intended for entertainment purposes only and should not be considered medical or even sometimes good advice. Now, let's full send into today's episode. Guess what I did? I'm Batman. Hey everybody, on today's episode we're going to talk about confidence and how I went from somebody who was incapable of telling her husband what she liked and what she wanted in bed to a person who is literally talking to God knows how many people about her sex life. So, the first thing that we're going to talk about is a segment that I am going to call Player Fails. And the reason why we are going to call it Player Fails is because I get a lot of messages. And since I decided to start doing this podcast, I've been getting even more messages. And while I don't have any intentions of making fun of people who are really trying to get somebody's attention, especially mine, there are things that people do that are fuck-ups. And they should know that those things are not going to work for them. And the first one I want to talk about is confidence. Because confidence is sexy, and it doesn't matter if you are 5'3" and look like a garden gnome, or you're 6'2" and look like Adonis. Having confidence is going to make women, and probably men, I don't know, but feel free to let me know in the comments what you guys think, because I'm not one, be more attracted to you. So I looked it up. Because most men think that the average length of an erect penis is 6 inches. But according to U.S. Medical News Today, it's actually 5.1 to 5.5 inches long, and usually closer to the smaller end of that scale. This is probably why there's that old joke about women not being able to become carpenters. You know, we've been told that our hand is 6 inches wide our whole lives. The number of guys that I have messaged me who start apologizing for the size of their dick before they even send a picture is astonishing. And I always tell them, that's not going to get you a girl. Nobody should lie about what they're packing in their pants because eventually you're going to have to take those pants off. And I promise most women would rather have you be upfront and honest than portray yourself as something you're not. But I can think of a couple friends, and one in particular, who's got a little bit larger than average penis. With his confidence, you would think that he was packing a pet iguana down there. You may be thinking to yourself, what if I don't have any experience to have confidence about? Well, don't start out by kicking yourself in the dick. And that's what guys are doing when they start off a conversation with, okay, so I know I don't have a very big dick, but... Unless that butt is followed with, I have a 10-inch tongue and can breathe through my ears. And now, the part of the show you've all been waiting for, the stories.
To the Batmobile. Let's go.
Atomic batteries to power. Turbines to speed.
Roger. Ready to move out.
Now we're going to transition to how it was that I got confidence enough to do this podcast, let alone all the other kinky things I do in my life. Okay, so some things that you need to know about me is that I had an extremely conservative upbringing. In fact, my mother is a librarian and a Sunday school teacher and cannot even imagine why anybody would ever want to put a cock in their mouth. And I can tell you, the first time she said that in front of my sister and I, we both looked at each other and we were like, oh, yeah, no, fuck. No, I have no idea, Mom, why anybody would ever even remotely want to do something like that. In high school, I didn't even lose my virginity till my senior prom night in the back seat of my car. Yeah, no, that's about as cliche as they come, I know. And I've always been embarrassed to say things that were super dirty. I mean, I can make jokes and I can laugh, but when it comes down to saying something that's my actual desires, even telling my husband what kind of porn I watch, I got tongue-tied and I would turn like 6 shades of red and would stutter and stammer. And he thought it was hysterical, absolutely hysterical, and would try to make me say specific words that I was totally uncomfortable with saying because he's kind of a pain in my ass, really. And I don't mean anal. Another way that lack of confidence was fucking up my life is when Mr. West and I started swinging, we would hook up a lot of times with single males and have a male, female, male threesome. And when we would get back to the hotel room, I would sit there on the edge of the bed and we would talk and talk and talk, and I had no ability to make a first move. I even got awkward and super unsexy, and I do not have any idea why somebody would want to have sex with me at that point in life, because I had to have looked like the biggest dork. So, because that's the way I am, the first thing I did was start scouring the internet for ways to get over this awkwardness. And one of the things that I read was that you should come up with something that makes it so you can transition from one activity to the next. And they suggest putting on lingerie or something more comfortable, and then coming out and you're all sexy, and then the men want to jump you. I don't know about any of the rest of you ladies, but the last time I put on a pair of high heels was, I don't have any fucking idea. And secondly, if I tried to be sexy in heels, I would fall and bust my ass, and it would not be good. I don't know if you've ever seen that meme on Facebook or Instagram that says, always be yourself, unless you can be Batman, and then definitely be Batman. Becoming Batman is how I became less of a shy, awkward, and self-conscious dork, and more of a confident and sexual woman. So one night, I decided to get all sexed up for Mr. West, and I had on my corset, which I absolutely love corsets because they snatch your waist. And I had on this little short, like schoolgirl cheerleader skirt on and some fishnet nylons. And I had a masquerade mask that I had gotten from the dollar store, I think. It had this big red ugly fake flower on it and lace, and it was plastic and it was uncomfortable. But for the first time, I was able to be as sexy as I wanted to be because it gave me a sense of anonymity and that I was a completely different person. I could rob a bank in my mask. So we had sex that night and it was amazing, and I was able to be kind of bossy and tell him exactly what I wanted, like, hey, you should go down on me, eat that pussy, or I got to pick out all the porn that we watched, and we stayed up all night, just fucking all night long, and it was so much fun. And in the morning, I knew that my stepson had to get up for work, and so I went out and I made him some coffee and I had my robe on and didn't think anything of it. Oh, and he was in his 20s, early 20s, like 21, 22. And he walks into the kitchen and he looks at me and goes, oh my fucking God. And it dawns on me that I'm still wearing the fucking mask. And I look at him and I go, I'm Batman. And he just started laughing and took his coffee and left. So, of course, I ran into our bedroom and told Mr. West about my fuck up, and he laughed his ass off. And ever since then, we always joke about me being able to put on my mask and become Batman. last weekend we hooked up with one of our very good friends, and I got the chance to use the mask and the sexy lingerie and the nylons in a threesome for the first time. And shout out to my favorite Irishman. He was very excited about my sexy clothes, especially my nylons. And it wasn't just that the sex was bomb and we got to do some DP, and I do love it when two men are paying attention to me, but it was so much easier to go from that we're hanging out, we're joking, we're laughing, to it's time for sexy May to come out and rock these guys' world. And damn, those orgasms. So once we figured out that this was something that worked for me to make me comfortable, feel confident, feel sexy, I bought a couple of $10 black lace masks on Amazon. No, I'm not endorsing Amazon, but that's where I got them. I started carrying them around in my purse. And once I started being able to put the mask on and do whatever the hell I wanted to because of that anonymity, I started being more and more courageous and more able to do sexy and kind of out there things like flashing people. One of the things we've gone and done is some dogging. I went and gave some guys a blowjob down behind the aquarium in Denver. More public sex, like sex where we could get caught. And we've even talked about maybe setting up something like a gangbang or a glory hole. Just because I now have my super secret Batman mask that I can wear, that doesn't mean that all of the things that I'm self-conscious about or don't have any confidence in are going to magically go away. In fact, when I look at pictures of myself, I still have a tendency to just see all of my flaws and faults. The one thing that's helped the most is I learned that once you get to your 40s, guys think girls with fat asses are super hot, and who knew that? So how do you find your Batman mask and find your confidence to do whatever the hell you want to, including robbing a bank? As far as I can tell, the internet's correct. The best way to move yourself from that we're all chatting, everything's going great, to hey, let's all get naked, is some sort of a transitional action. Whether that be you put on sexy music or you put on your lingerie. And speaking of lingerie, I think one of the most important things that women miss out on is just because that's what's popular and that's what everybody else is wearing doesn't mean that's what you should be wearing. Personally, I love corsets. They make you look skinny and they cover up the parts that I'm the most self-conscious about. If I were to wear something strappy, I would look like Oscar Mayer's dream ham, and I'd spend the entire time pulling at it and futzing with it. So that's not going to make me feel sexy. That's going to make me feel stupid. Don't pick something that's going to make you feel unsexy, uncomfortable, or stupid. Some people like kissing or making out, which is not my thing. I think kissing on the lips is sort of a romance thing that I reserve only for my husband. Another way for you to put on your mask is to turn up the temperature in the room. I heard somebody else on a podcast say that her husband always turns up the temperature in the hotel room before they leave, because when you get back, it's warm enough in the room that being naked's super comfortable. No matter the method, figuring out how you can put on your mask and you can be Batman is going to be a matter of trial and error. Not the same thing is going to work for everybody. If anybody else has any tips or tricks for how they make that transition from sitting on the bed wondering what the hell you're supposed to do next to being naked and getting it on, shoot me an email or message me on one of my social medias and let me know what you do, and I'll share your ideas with everybody. Speaking of social media, make sure you subscribe and check out my social media for more stories, fun, and ways to join in on the fun. The May Wyld West Show is available on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. You can also send emails to me at maywildwest@gmail.com. And I also have an Instagram and a Reddit page, which are at May Wyld West. And my website link is in the podcast description. If you had a good time with me today, and I'm always a good time, Please make sure you do subscribe so you don't miss out on a single riveting story from the craziest gal in all of the Wild West. Also, don't forget to share my podcast with your other inappropriate friends. And I will see you later.